Welcome to this week's Morphmarket Auction videos, ending anywhere from Friday the 17th all the way up to Sunday the 19th. Not wasting any time today, getting right into it with this Orange Stream Enchi Yellow Belly Fire Het Paint, or possible fire, I guess. There are not very many combinations of jeans that do it better than ODYB Enchi. They are great together. It is always resulting in this just beautifully orange hued animal that's just so gorgeous in literally anything it does. Those three are some of the best combinations that you can get out there. Fire, I think it might be in there because you get some of this fading and whatnot, but it's tough to say because the back of it doesn't quite show it the same. And on top of it, this is just kind of how some of them look, but I kind of lean towards it, yeah. The big thing here being Het Paint. Paint is such an awesome genetic that's just so underrated. I would love to see someone actually get into here and start diving into this as a main project. It is definitely a messy morph. It looks like smeared paint, and messy is good. Controlled chaos is something that's big time right now, and you see it in a lot of these granulation type jeans. One of the more big ones right now that everybody's talking about is Cosmos, but it's been around for a while now. This love of pixelation and something that just destroys the pattern in such a way. There are a lot of great examples of beautiful paint ball pythons, but this combination with paint would be even better. Just to have this and then have it just smeared and chaotic, just all over the place, would be nearly a literal work of art. Being a girl at that's really nice to get your hets and your girls, in my opinion. Obviously, it's better to get it visual, but if you had this visual, well, then it might not be for sale, quite frankly. You get yourself a visual paint boy with some extra stuff in there, maybe even something cool like blackhead to add some contrast. That would be absolutely killer to hit something like that that's visual. I'd love to see that. So good. I highly recommend if you're looking for something kind of unique but cool. If the paint morph speaks to you, it's a really good recessive to get into, and this would be a killer way to start it. Not just making standard paints, but making things that could potentially be an MVP for the paint gene. Next up from Ball Python Shed would be this Stranger Pastel Clown. It also happens to be 66% Het Pied. If you're looking to get into Stranger and Clown, well, there you go. It's a visual clown. Stranger. I feel a feeling this is going to go for an absolute steal, and the reason for that is the pastel gene. People see this and they just immediately think it's like dirty or whatnot because of the pastel in there. And albeit pastel clowns are not my favorite thing in the world, just by themselves anyways. There's plenty of different examples of what I love pastel in, and sometimes I think it gets a cruddy rap, but for Cry Eye, sometimes I see it just tank the cost of certain things. It's so silly, and in my mind, if that's the way people are going to be, then take advantage of it, because if this thing is even not double this or triple this, it's a little surprising, quite frankly. Stranger Clown alone would might go for more. It's nuts. And yes, you are passing that pastel around occasionally, but you know, to make great things, you still have a visual stranger here. And that's not even talking about the fact that it might be Het Pied. Definitely send this to RGI for a shed test, because if you could make Stranger Clown Pieds, that would be outstanding. And guess what? Pastel and Pied is actually really nice. So that might actually end up making that a desirable trait in the clown anyways. So I'm just noticing that the description says that you should test this animal for Pied and Monsoon. That's interesting. And obviously the Pied was something, but I don't know where the Monsoon is coming from in this. It doesn't even look like it was in the pairing. So I don't know if that's an error, but I guess, you know, just message. And as you can see that you have your contact right down here too. You can message about it and just say like, hey, Ball Python Shed has absolutely quality animals. We love seeing them at shows and whatnot too. This is a really quality male that you could get if you want to start working Stranger Clowns. And then if you get lucky and hit this Pied, then you have a higher than likely chance to hit it, and that's going to make a big world of difference for you. Next up would be this ready to breed Cypress Chocolate Clown, and this one actually is also 50% Het Paint. So kind of going back to that female you had earlier, this male here is proven and has a couple of genetics in there that are already very desirable. I believe that these two are allelic as well. So you're always going to get one copy of either Chocolate or Cypress. Being a clown at that's a really good genetic. I mean, how are you going to go wrong here? Passing Chocolate Clowns and Cypress Clowns along. It's a wonderful breeder in terms of that. And then if it ends up being Het Paint, that's going to be even more wild. This potentially could be an absolute game changer for somebody if it ends up being het paint. No reserve on this, and actually came from Sterling Nelson originally. So this could be a score for someone, no doubt. I think that this is a really cool combination and something that you just can't go wrong with. Like I said, you breed it to a visual clown, you're always getting Cypress clown and chocolate clowns. What's not to love? And that's not even counting for the fact that it might be het paint. Another one here from Ball Python Shed would be this Butter Pastel Possible Redstripe 100% het clown. The reason I wanted to include this is because it's got a decent amount of power to it. I love what Butter or Lesser does in this combination. I'm tempted, even though it's just a het clown, I'm tempted just because I love Lesser clowns. And if anybody watched, they know that a long while back here, I lost my Lesser clown in a pretty horrible, tragic accident on her first attempt to breed. She just didn't make it, and that's obviously tempting whenever I see one again to do it. And the fact that there's a lot of other extra things in here possibly. And then I didn't even mention that the fact that she's a proven breeder. She laid 8 eggs in July of last year, and she's already building follicles and ready to go. So this is an animal that would immediately getting started for you. And one thing I always notice from Ball Python Shed that's kind of important, I think, is free shipping. I always expect to pay for shipping, but if it just comes for free, that's a huge bonus. That's a minimum of like 50 bucks off in most cases, sometimes quite a bit more. A cool animal here, especially if you want to get started working into some clowns and you don't have a whole bunch of money. I feel like this one won't end for a whole bunch. I could be wrong, but either way, I think that someone trying to get into this and make cool things, but also maybe on a budget, this is a good one because you can make visual clowns with this and quite a bit of cool things on top of that. Having a girl like this, you get your visual male with some extra genetics in there, and you can make some really cool things right off the bat. So definitely worth a consideration, and I think that a lot of people could find some use for an animal like this. Here's a really nice one, a girl, and pretty much right at the reserve price anyways. This Leopard Pastel Lace Clown, a girl at that, and no reserve. It's just pretty much starting price at what the reserve would be. And lace clowns are all the thing right now. Lace in general is all the thing. It really lightens the animal up. It's almost like somewhat of a dose of a desert ghost, but in a different way. It lightens and enhances the animal, but I feel like it doesn't completely clean it all the way. It leaves some of the speckling and such that it might accidentally clean up in some cases. And while that's cool often in Desert Ghost, I sometimes remiss the loss of some of those kind of dirty type looks. Just cleaning it up might be better rather than and leaving some of that granulation. And you can rest assured that it is lace, even though lace can sometimes be difficult to tell. Looking at this animal, if you know what lace is, you can probably tell. And it came from a white lace, so it has to be, which is a super lace. Everything must be lace that was bred. It will keep that pastel clown. I mentioned earlier how I sometimes don't care for pastel in clown, but it'll keep it a much nicer looking animal as it ages. And that is one of the best things about lace, is that it works well with just about everything. You can put it into anything and it's just going to make it better. A really cool female to get for your collection, especially if you were looking to get into the lace project. From Petrogenetics would be this Sunset, which is also likely Orange Dream. Love Petrogenetics. We got a really good animal from them. It was last year, I think almost a year ago. We love it, and it's one of our greater eaters, and I can't wait for it to get to size here, probably by next year. I can attest for their quality personally, and their quality as people personally. And having an Orange Dream Sunset up here that they put up with no reserve is definitely a really cool thing. It's not going to stay at 600 bucks with 43 hours to go as the time of recording this, but it will be very well worth it. And if you are looking to get into Sunset, they are one of the ones that you should go through. And just look at this thing too. It is an incredible example of one. It is absolutely exploding with magma type colors. Look at the orange on the belly. This is an incredible example actually. And how it darkens near the top. I'm really impressed actually with this. As soon as I blew it up, I was taken aback, quite frankly. This is absolutely incredible. This is why people love this Sunset gene. I mean, like, wow. I'm a little speechless at how awesome, like I said, right here in the belly and how cool it looks. Really good animal right here, but there's a lot of great breeders with Sunset, and Petrogenetics is just a great breeder in general, and you can definitely trust that this is also among the top tier of examples of Sunset. Moving right along, we have a couple of proven breeders here. Now, there are reserve prices on all of these. No idea what they are, of course, but I suspect they might not be high up. But this boy here is an Enchi Yellow Belly Ultramel Het Clown. Might also be Blade, is what they're saying. So if you want to work the Ultramel clowns, this would be a really good one to get. Maybe get yourself a female clown Het Ultramel, and you already got Enchi and Yellow Belly. Why not get Orange Dream in it, right? And get that combo we talked about earlier, making some really awesome looking clowns. So a big boy at that. This is nearly the size of a breeder female. So a nice one to get. And I always say bid up to where you're comfortable. So if you were comfortable, I don't know, at 250, don't just put 250 in here, maybe bid it up to 100, right? And then see if it drops off, and then maybe 125, and then 150. Bid it up in increments to the point where you're comfortable. Because if the reserve price drops off earlier, then great. But if you bid right up to it, well, it's going to zoom right up to it, and it's going to eclipse where you might have been able to win it for cheaper. So don't do that. Walk it up to where you're comfortable, and guess what? If it doesn't drop that reserve price by then, no harm, no foul. If no one else takes it, the auction becomes voided and just ends, and nobody's a winner. So really good way to do it. Another one from the same breeder here would be, guess what? A clown head Ultramel. Hey, surprise, surprise, right? I was just talking about this, how you could use one of these to go against it, save the money. And the reason I suggest that if you want to save money is because you're always guaranteed to have hets here. No matter what, if you miss on everything, it will at least always be a head Ultramel, het clown, and a combo of those two put together right there, because they have to be. Because the clown gene in its visual homozygous form is always going to pass one gene on, and same thing for the Ultramel. Now when it passes 2 copies on, you're going to get the double visual. So you have actually 1 in 4 odds of hitting the double visual, 1 in 4 odds of hitting the clown, 1 in 4 odds of hitting the Ultramel, and 1 in 4 odds of hitting just the triple het. I do this combo quite a bit because that's how I kind of started in making a lot of things. When I first started, I bought some animals that were pied albino, then I bought a male that was albino het pied to kind of save some money, and I was doing these odds, and that's how I went about doing it myself. It was still big money, but I made that money back, and I still have them, actually, because I just love making them, and it's not like they didn't do great work for me. I still love, like I said, making these combos. So it would just be the kind of the same formula, but with still high-end things. Clown Ultramels are awesome. Even though I'm a Monarch guy myself, I definitely don't disparage Ultramel. Ultramel's sick. And Ultramel clowns are really, really nice. So maybe get yourself this pair here. Something to account for here is it is free shipping. So once these reserve prices are met, these two will be ready to go real quick, because this female here is pretty darn close. She's just knocking on the door being able to breed. Definitely worth some consideration for some awesome looking animals. One more from Red Mountain Herpetoculture is an actual visual Ultramel clown, which happens to be 66% het caramel as well. So depending on how you kind of want to go about it, you can see right here the end result of it regardless. Making an Ultramel clown, you can see how awesome they really are. Just absolutely beautiful coloring, and the clown pattern, which just goes together so well. The caramel albino is actually an interesting one in there, because Ultramel and caramel, a lot of people thought might be allelic at one point. Same thing with Monarch, quite frankly, but a lot of these pairings were done between Ultramel and caramel to prove that they were not allelic. They put them together and they were not double hets. So this looks like it was some sort of pairing. Someone might have tried to put these two genes together. It was actually a pairing of an Ultramel clown het caramel to an Ultramel double het caramel clown. A good chance it ends up being caramel. It's a gene that's interesting. I actually have a caramel here, a caramel pied. I actually really just got it for the pied and didn't know if I really wanted to work the caramel gene. It can be a difficult one to work. And then it is a female too. She's only been fertile once, and the other time it was just a whole bunch of slugs. They have subfertility issues. I have not found anything with kinking, but I don't really try to reproduce the caramels. I'm actually planning to move on from this girl and give someone else an opportunity to continue in that project if they'd like, but it is subfertile. I can guarantee you that because I've experienced it. But the kinking I have not, but then again, I don't have a large amount of those under my belt. But definitely a really cool one, just really showing off the Ultramel clown. That's the big reason why I wanted to show it. Talking about some Hognoses here. There's not a whole bunch up this week, but we always like showing off a few of them. And we're gonna start off with this extreme red albino het lavender. But the extreme red makes him look good, and I love albinos. Albino Hognoses are my favorite morph of Hognose, and don't see it changing at least anytime soon. They are awesome. I love the sunbursts. I know that might sound cliche because a lot of people really like that sunburst, but I don't care. It is amazing. Now this is not a sunburst maker because it's missing that crucial sable either in a het or anything like that, but the lavender is there, and lavender is really cool too. Extreme red is actually a polygenic trait, so this will always pass on a little bit of that example of the extreme red, which is unique, and a lot of people don't know about that because, you know, in ball pythons there's not too much of that going around, even though it actually is. We're just not paying as much attention to it because we got distractions from our billions of genes that we do have. On top of that, the mom of this animal animal was a extreme red het lab from JMG, which is one of the top hognose breeders out there, period. Really cool male if you were working that project. And for the last one, another one we showed off on our last live stream would be this toxic female, which might be sounding like I'm trying to poke fun at somebody, but no, that's the morph combination of Axanthic and Toffee Belly, which Toffee Belly is something we actually work here. And Purple Line, again, is also a polygenic type trait, so it's always going to pass something along with that. Axanthic is really cool in this, and I love this animal. I don't know if it's the lighting, but it really suits the animal. Obviously, it looks like it's in a noir film or something like that, some black and white detective film or something. There is a reserve price, but it's a really, really nice animal. Another absolutely beautiful one, if you want to work some dreamsicle projects, would be this Yellow Belly Confusion Lavender Albino 100% het pied. Again, another one that you get yourself a pied het Lav Albino and put this to. The Confusion genetic is one of my favorites. I have to get it, or Acid or Static or one of these types of genetics in my collection this year. It is on my short list, and I want it in Clown. It is insane myself, but to see it in Lavender Albino would be awesome too. Confusion adds pattern to the belly. It's something I don't see anywhere else. It looks like a hognose belly in many cases, and it just jumbles up the pattern so crazily and actually affects the head. It's a very visual gene and a very effective one at that too. It really works well with other genetics. It stacks well with something like Leopard, quite frankly, and just they tag team to make an even more absolutely nutty pattern. Seeing something like this is just electric. It's the pattern, the colors, everything here just pops. To have this in its dreamsicle form would be gorgeous. An absolute killer animal. If you want to start working a dreamsicle project, you can see there's a lot of interest in this though. So I have no idea what it'll end at, but it will be a very powerful one. And big surprise here, it was produced from 2 animals from Canova. So essentially this is a Canova lion snake, an absolute gorgeous animal, no doubt, and a powerful male if you want to start working dreamsicles. Another one from Petro Genetics would be this Redstripe, Spotnose, Gravel, or Yellow Belly. Hard to always tell the difference. Gravel and Yellow Belly are in the same family. It's very difficult to tell the difference without doing a genetic shed test, which you could do and kind of figure that out, quite frankly. But what's cool about this is essentially a Pompeii -1 gene. It is missing the black pastel genetic. We actually got a snake similar to this one that's only missing Spotnose, actually, from Petro Genetics, a female though. It's a pride and joy. I love it. I can't wait for her to breed, and I can take some chances at some really cool Pompeii combos myself. But this is essentially something that you could do, and if it didn't end up proving out as Yellow Belly, it's actually a curious thing. I think you'd get something still very similar to a Pompeii, if not maybe even something crazier or different. If it ended up being Gravel instead of Yellow Belly, it might look the exact same, quite frankly, because they do the same thing in their singular gene form. Yellow Belly and Gravel, they do very similar things to each other. They're, in fact, like I said, you can't really tell them apart, you know, when they're by themselves. It would be interesting to say that this isn't one off from being a Pompeii. But even if it ended up being Gravel, Redstripe, and Spotnose, and then you ended up getting the combo and hitting Blackstripe in it, but it passed Gravel on. I mean, I don't know if anybody's done that, but if they have, I'd love to see it. And I imagine, honestly, it would be a Pompeii, essentially. It would look the exact same, except instead of Yellow Belly, you'd have Gravel. That's what I'm guessing anyways. And if not, it would look different, but probably amazing. So if you want to start working a project like that, this is killer. I won't let this go for anything under than 100 myself, because I'll bid it up, and quite frankly, you're not getting this for this price. I'm telling you right now. In fact, I'm in on it. I'm gonna pay attention. What I like to do is I call that a placeholder bid. It tells me now if somebody else bids on it, and it'll tell me within an hour of it ending what it's at. So that way I can say, yeah, I kind of want to be invested and I want to be involved in the end of this. Or if it's gone nuts, I will maybe just bow out and realize I've already got what I need. So I think this would be a great male, and you should watch this because this is nuts. This is bonkers. Next up, we're going to talk about the puzzle gene, and that would be this Pastel Yellow Belly Puzzle, which is a ready to breed boy. Another one starting right at the reserve price that they are wanting. If you want to get into the puzzle project, this is a great way to do it. A really nice price for a proven breeder boy, quite frankly. If you want to start making puzzles, he's already ready to breed. The Yellow Belly being in there is nice, and Pastel, this is another one I think works well with Pastel. And if you don't believe me that it ages well with Pastel, well, look at it. It's aged. I think that looks pretty dang good to me. You can see that Pastel is actually pretty easy to work with the right genetics. It looks really nice. And Yellow Belly is definitely helping it. There's no doubt there, but puzzles are very good. They're more than just the pattern, but I think they keep them clean. And this is perfect proof of it, because pastels are supposed to brown out, right? It didn't get the memo, because that's what puzzle does. And this is a nice combination. You can work this into so many things. You know what I'd love to see? I don't know if it'd be any good, but an asphalt puzzle put to a Yellow Belly. You know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that freeway puzzle. What the heck would that look like? And then while you're at it, throw banana in there. And while you're at it, throw Enchi in there. Show me a Mardi Gras banana puzzle. I don't know what I'll get, but I'm sure I'll be happy with it. From MSB Reptiles would be this pair of a male Mojave double het Monarch genetic stripe and a female double het Monarch genetic stripe. This is really cool in that if you wanted to use the boy for a few other projects, you wanted to pick yourself up another Monarch genetic stripe and increase your odds of hitting that, he has the Mojave gene in him, so he's going to pass it on a little bit more. It's another good one that's in a little bit of a lighter type category that works well with Monarch. But then again, there's really not much that doesn't work good with Monarch. I have a pair of double hets that I actually won from an auction from Tom Harbing. And then I did get a few from Best Dressed Balls. I actually have one on the way from CD Constrictors. And then we did get one actually from MSB Reptiles off the auction not terribly long ago. Another one of the high-end leaders of the Monarch project. This is going to be great quality. In fact, MSB Reptiles essentially has the beginnings of the Monarch collection. They bought out the collection from the founder of the Morph. So all the OG stuff comes straight from them at this point. But what you're looking at here is Monarch genetic stripes, which again, another fun fact, were the first Monarchs. The first Monarchs popped out, the story goes, from two dirty pastels that were thrown together, and then suddenly it's like, what in the world? And you can kind of guess what a genetic stripe might look like, but it's like, that's not just a genetic stripe. This is clearly something else. And then they got the Monarch out from it in the next pairing and just proved just the Monarch by itself, and it was nuts. But yeah, the very first Monarchs were Monarch genetic stripes, so that's why you see them together quite a bit. And they are very nice. There's a reason why they kept sticking around. This is the sort of thing that you could get that and start making that immediately. That's how the first ones were made, was pastel Monarch genetic stripes, so you could potentially get Mojave Monarch genetic stripes. Really good one if you wanted to take after my own heart and start working into the Monarch projects. This would be a really great way to go, and this has a potential to be a little bit lower. I still think it'll go up there a bit, being pretty much everything you need to get started, but it's still gonna be a lot cheaper than buying visual examples of these morphs. Not that that's not the way to go. I think that having a visual male is obviously the way to go, but this is something that you can still use that female down the road. And once you start making some of these combos and you eventually hopefully hit on the visual examples and you grow them out, you could eventually part from the male and then maybe even eventually female way down the line and give someone else the same exact opportunity that you're getting here to produce this awesome double visual. For our second to last one from Rubber City Royals would be this Hurricane Redstripe Spotnose clown. If you are looking for a very powerful male, look no further if these genes speak to you, and they should, because they are gorgeous. And I love this sort of quality that Rubber City Royals brings to the table. We really started to take note of what they do at the Schaumburg show last year. They impressed me. They knocked my socks off. A lot of the examples they had were just top tier quality, and you see it right here. If you want a male that's really powerful, this is a good one to go with. I have no idea what this one will end at, but Hurricane Clowns are awesome. It really does some crazy stuff with the eye stripes. You can kind of even see it here, even though Spotnose is in it, but just a Hurricane Clown by itself has weird goofy eye stripes, which is normally not present in clowns anymore. But a really nice boy. I love the colors. I love the pattern being so nice and bright. I love the orange, but with black speckles going through it, and the magma type crust coming out of the top of it. And then the head just even seems like a different shade of orange. Just a really nice head pattern on top of that. Almost looks like some old Atari video game character kind of walking at you or something like that. I don't know. That was what I got. All right, and for our very last one from Frame Shift Reptiles, another person we have purchased from would be this Pixel Yellow Belly. And Pixel's another genetic that we work, and guess what? Got it from Frame Shift. I really like what Pixel does. It's another one that does this really good granulation. We plan to try and work it into clown. Having Yellow Belly here too, I think helps out a lot. It's another genetic that just works well with just about everything. If you want to start getting into a project that is pretty slim pickings on how many people are in this right now. This would be a good way to do it. Looks like free shipping too, so that's even better. You got one bidder right now, but this one went up not terribly long ago. So I don't know what this one will end at. I think that Pixel has a lot of potential. A lot of these granulation type genes do, and I'd love to see the future of what it can do. So if you want to get in on Pixel, this is a great way to do it. Hope you enjoyed this week's auctions. If you want anything from this week or from prior weeks, please let us know in the comments below. We love hearing about it. If you like hearing about some of the genetics we talked about today, you can actually check out our video on some of these genetics right here and here.